You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hello, everyone. Michael Renfro here. I'm the host of 15 Minutes, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you, as always, by Gladiator Law Marketing, where we deliver tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. At Gladiator Law Marketing, we use artificial intelligence as well as machine learning and decades, actually it's close to a century now, of experience to outperform the competition. Feel free to learn more at gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can get a free consultation, and that is an evaluation, a full evaluation of your site as well as the competitors. Or you can reach out to me directly at at my email address, Michael@Gladiator Law Marketing, which is MICHAEL. And Gladiator Law Marketing is simply spelled standard, gladiatorlawmarketing.com. Anyway, today's guest is Brian Glass. Brian is out of Fairfax, Virginia, and he is a personal injury attorney as well as a real estate investor. And if I have my memory on today, a father of three. Is that correct, Brian?
That's right, Michael. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I got three young boys who are 9, 7, and the youngest one just turned 4.
That's funny that you say that, because I have 3 22-year-olds. Long story, 2 twins and a third one who's not blood, but he's been with the family now for so long he calls me dad, and vice versa, and I treat him as a fifth. And those 3 live together. But then I've got a 10 and an 8 that are just a year ahead of what it sounds like is your oldest. So, and all boys. The good Lord decided that girls were not in my deck of cards.
It's noisy and loud in my house.
Say it again.
It's noisy and loud in my house.
Oh, it is. I have my mother and my wife, and they constantly joke about the amount of testosterone. So we did get a female dog and a female cat to kind of try to help, balance things out a little bit. With that said, how did you get started?
So, how did I get started in the law?
Yes.
I never wanted to be anything else, honestly. So my dad is a lawyer. He did medical malpractice and personal injury law. I think I must have seen that growing up, right? I must have gone to court with him every once in a while. But I never in high school or college ever wanted to do anything else. I like talking to juries. I like talking to people. And so kind of being on stage in a courtroom is something that really appealed to me.
So you're also a litigator then as well?
I'm a trial lawyer, yeah.
Got it. Nice. And I don't know if I have this. How long now have you been practicing?
Let's see. So graduated law school in 2008. So 14 years.
14 years already, and you're doing quite well. I might say. And I did love the. It's not a question on here, but I'll just bring it up now since we're kind of talking about you. But I loved the idea, the approach, I guess, the mission statement, if you will, of trying to be, something different than any other law practice. You want to tell us just a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we've spent the last 3 years. So my story is I graduated law school in 2008. I went to work at one firm. It was kind of a general practice firm, and I lasted about 4 months there. I'm not good at doing things like billing my time, which is why personal injury law is perfect for me. But
it's all contingent.
But yeah, so I lasted about 4 months there, and then went to work at an auto accident firm for about 10 years. And my whole reasoning out of law school for doing that was to make my own name and reputation and friends and way of doing things. And then ultimately at some point to join my dad's practice. And so about 4 years ago now, I joined him, and we've been working with business coaches to construct, okay, what are we really trying to build here, right? I think most lawyers are just looking for the next case, and we want next year to be better than last year was. And everybody wants that, right?
Right. That's the standard.
But chasing those numbers year after year, I think gets a little bit repetitive. And so we took a step back and we said, we're really good lawyers, but at the end of the day, I think I'm a better business person than I am lawyer. It's really hard, especially in Northern Virginia, to be the top dog lawyer. And your client would never know the difference anyway, which is not to say that we're not trying to build
Not to
a
say that
great
you guys
law.
aren't the best. It's just, I get it. You have so much competition, and where can you, if you are the best and then there's three other guys that are doing just as good as you,
Mhm.
right? Or you're doing just as good as them, vice versa.
And how does anybody ever know, right?
Right.
I mean, you're a law marketing firm, and every lawyer says the same thing. Right? Every lawyer says they're the best and the smartest and they're the most aggressive and whatever. What I wanted to do, and what my dad and I want to do, is build the best business. Meaning, we want to have the best people working for us, people that we know, like, and trust, and know, like, and trust us. We're invested in their own personal growth as much as they're invested in the growth of the firm. And that passes down to the clients. The clients
Absolutely.
are best served when my employees are happy, and my employees are happiest when I'm happy. And so, so really what we're trying to build here is not the best lawyers with the best objections and the best arguments. Do we get great results? Yes. But we're trying to build the best client customer service experience that you can have in a law firm. And so what that means is, if you're an auto accident client of mine, you really should never have to call and ask what's going on with your case, because we've done such a good job of keeping you informed about not only what's happening today, but what the next 3 steps in your case are going to be. So we have a lot of ways of keeping in touch with our clients. Clients get periodic videos from us. They get check-ins with our with my paralegals and with me, depending on the stage of the case. But the idea is that you should never be in a situation where you're thinking there's something that's going on in my case that I don't know about or haven't been informed about. And that's really what we're trying to build here, is a place where the owners thrive, the employees thrive, and then ultimately the client, the customer, thrives.
Keeping them 100% in the loop is definitely, we consider, it's funny is, but when you're in business, I think that should be the ultimate goal of any business, particularly if it is client-based, right, and ongoing. And even though, go ahead.
It sounds really basic,
but it's not.
But it's not, right? I mean, there's a term for it, legalese, right? Most lawyers talk to each other and talk to their clients at a level that's up here. And sometimes the clients nod and pretend that they understand. Sometimes they do understand, but a lot of times they don't have any idea what you're talking about. And so kind of coming down to normal person talk, right? I mean, it's like going into I'm intimidated when I go into most auto mechanic shops, right?
Right.
I don't speak the language. So you got to talk to me like I don't speak the language. And most lawyers don't do that. So I forgot exactly how we got here.
No, but it's fine. It's funny because I do the same thing. My son's a mechanic now at 22, and he's a hell of a mechanic and getting quite a reputation here in the area for being one of the best. And it's funny because, just last night, he's like, "Hey, Dad, check this out." And he got a new bike. And I'm like, "Man, you're showing me stuff and you're describing," like, he took the carburetors apart and he's telling me all about these little and I'm like, "I love you, son, but you're way over my head. Can I just see the bike?" He still had shown me the bike. I was like, "Can I just see what you bought?" But I think doing that for your clients, and that's how we got there, is you said that. And I was just saying, tagging in that I think that's ultimately anything. And I agree with you. I don't believe it is a standard of most firms. And I'll give you an example to speak louder of you guys, of you folks over there. I just spoke to a firm yesterday that had, and I won't mention any names, not like that, but they had scheduled an interview, right? And when I called, the disposition of the front desk person just right away was nasty. And then the follow-up that I got from the attorney was very cold and how do I say, disconnected.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought was, wow, it seems like that whole firm is just in a little bit of discontent because it always starts at the top. You can say what you want, but typically speaking, if your front end, if you're seeing that, and then it's all like, that's what you see throughout the transition, then it usually is trickling from the top end. Because if they're not happy, then.
Well, and who wants to go to work 40 hours a week at a place like that? Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how do most law offices answer the phone? Somebody picks up the phone and barks law offices into the phone. You don't know
Yep.
You don't know who you called. Our front desk is manned by lady we call a director of happiness. And her job is to make sure that everybody who interacts with our office, be it the UPS guy or the, the food delivery guy, or we have an OB's office who's directly across the hallway from us. And during COVID, the partner and the other kids they bring with them weren't allowed to go into the OB's office. So what did we do? We bought a bunch of teddy bears, stuck them up front. We said, anytime you see a 3-year-old wandering around the hallway, go out and give them a teddy bear. So we just want everybody who comes into our world to walk away with a positive experience.
That even comes in and even in the fringe of it, because that's really not even, technically speaking, that's going above and beyond. And I will shout it out because it is, and you don't see that every day, but that's even not in your circle so much as fringing on your circle. And hey, I see you guys are not having the best time. Let me make it a little bit easier on your clients. You're our neighbors, Very cool. Let's talk about those 4 years just real quick that you were having to bill. What were those early days like?
Oh yeah, so it was about 6 months.
I thought you said 4 years.
No, I've been here for 4 years.
Okay,
the first place that I was at for 6 months was a traditional law firm, right? It was a place that picks up
billable hours, the whole
law offices. There's billable hours. There's no training. And there's very little, so I'll tell you this, there's very little thought given to how can we improve the client's life. So this firm was, we had a number of our clients came to us through one of these legal insurance contract plans.
Oh, right? Got it. They had
one of these employer-sponsored plans where you pay $25 a month or whatever, and then you get a discount lawyer who's a general practitioner to handle your case.
Right.
And this wasn't stated, but it felt to me as though the primary goal for any of those people that walked in the door was to figure out a way to convert the issue that they had, not from something that was covered by their legal insurance contract, but to something that we could bill them by the hour. And that ethos permeates everything that you do, right?
Right.
And which can be an issue with the billable hour itself, which is a whole other issue. But placing a premium on how does it benefit us rather than how does it benefit the client was something that it's just culturally endemic to many law firms, and certainly to that one.
It's funny because before I started, first of all, I have a checker past, and most everybody knows that. So I'll just say from 16 to 26, I was a douchebag on the other side of the law and used criminal guys, right? Criminal defense guys. We'll just put it that way. And that was the only exposure I had really had to law, was the criminal defense or a traffic ticket, right? And then seeing a few movies. And it's funny because when I talk to folks now, I always cite the firm because the firm gives you one concept, and it's that type of firm. Like the firm that is in that movie is the exact type of firm you're talking about, where it's how many hours, how many dollars can we get out of this client? It's not how well can we help this client. Another one of my favorites that demonstrates that, and I'm curious if you've seen it, but it's an older movie, and if you haven't seen it, last time I saw it was on Prime, but it's called From the Hip, and it is it's a great movie that stars one of the Brat Pack from the 80s. Oh my gosh, Judd Nelson. So I don't know if you know him from Judd Nelson right there. So he stars as a fledgling attorney in a big firm. You would absolutely love. I'm telling you would love it. So, but moving on.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, you will, because everybody knows the firm, but very few people know that. It didn't do as well. But if you look, it actually has good, decent ratings, particularly since you're talking about like an 80s movie, it was around that late 80s. What was and I'm going to kind of squeeze two questions here together because they actually make sense more to me together. But what was the biggest turning point that in turn became the biggest milestone for your career and where it ended up?
Yeah. So biggest turning point that became a big milestone.
I mean, they're really one and the same if you look at it. That's why, let's face it, a milestone and a turning point to me are kind of the same. So which one do you think which was the biggest one, if you will, that had the biggest impact that led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So I think joining my dad about 4 years ago over here and building, the firm that I was at just prior to being here, a fantastic firm, but we really were running two parallel auto accident practices together, right? Like a lot of firms, and it works. It works for many, many people, but it didn't feel like I was building something larger than my own book.
Right.
And so being here now, and my dad and I have a lot of symbiotic, um, 1 + 1 = 3 stuff going on. He's good at stuff that I'm not, and I'm good at stuff that he's not.
Gotcha.
And so now I feel like I'm building something greater than just my own practice and my own next case. And so that has been a big milestone for me. I mean, it's not the thing that you would hang on a wall as like greatest verdict, but that mindset shift from, okay, how do I make 10% more next year to how do we do that and make other people around us lives better has been a big change for me.
No, I would actually, to me, I would agree. It may not, I guess I'll say this, I'll agree that it may not be something that's worthy of as you say, of the wall in the sense of a degree or a certificate that says this happened at that moment, or even a victory. But for what you're trying to build and where you're trying to go, I imagine if I had spoken to you 5 years ago, I would have gotten some different answers right out of the gate, just because your mindset and what you were focused on was different. So,
and it's funny that I use the metaphor of putting it on a wall, because we actually do have we have on our walls. Anytime somebody leaves us a 5-star Google review and mentions one of our staff by names,
right,
we have an artist who strips out the staff member's name. And takes the quote and puts it on one of these little wall plaques, and we hang it on the wall in their office or in our conference room. So in a sense, all that stuff does go on the wall.
It does go on the wall, because it's about, I'll say this, and I'm not going to sit here and try to credit the first company. I think one of the earliest companies I remember truly back in the day, and I'm not talking about them today. Let me be very, very clear on that. But Apple back in the day was very innovative of looking at different ways at running their company. And I think that's what helped build a great company. It's not just, like you say, it's not just the victories, and you guys have that, right? So if you have, the way you're doing it, you have all these different things. You've checked that one off. We're good at our job. We're good at what we do in the sense of the service that we provide. Now we're good at businessmen. Can we be good at creating a culture that is different than anybody else?
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. And I think that's always refreshing to me to do something that is different. With that, looking at the greatest one, what's the biggest pitfall and or mistake, however you want to look at it? I don't believe in mistakes. I only believe in hurdles, right? That I knocked over and I learned how to jump the next time. So what's the biggest one for you?
Yeah. So I think one hurdle that we had is the same hurdle that everybody had in the last couple of years, is COVID. Like,
right.
Trying to figure out, and we were fortunate enough that we were technologically advanced, at least as far as lawyers go, and all of our server is an online server, right? I don't have to have people physically in the office to do anything other than open the mail. A lot of small law firms weren't in that position.
We know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know that. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of scrambling was going on those first 2 weeks. Let's just say that.
And for an auto accident firm, for a firm that relies on people getting in car crashes, we didn't have cars on the road for 3 months. So that was a scary time. And what we went around to all of our people, we had, single moms working here whose daycares are shut down. And we went around and we said to everybody, okay, what can we do? Like, what would perfect be for you?
Right.
We can't promise that we can do whatever the thing, that would be the good
we need to know.
You, but we're going to try. And so we weathered that storm. We've been through now until earlier this year, we had gone through really 2 months where we didn't settle anything big. We didn't try anything big because courts were closed for 18, 22 months in Virginia, Northern Virginia. And so as you may know, on larger cases, the insurance companies were holding on to the money and just earning interest on it. So
they were smart. I mean, we didn't
have any 6-figure settlements for at least a year and a half, which it has an impact. So, but we've gotten through that. I think we're stronger on the other side. We've kind of fleshed out our portfolio, and we're up and running and ready to go for the next couple of years.
the two points I want to come to on this. Number one, anybody to have made it through COVID, I believe, particularly law firms and service-based industries, not to sound rude, and I know some people are probably going to take this the wrong way, but it really thinned the crop, if you will, to the people who truly had successful businesses that could weather that kind of a storm. Number one, and obviously kudos for you folks to making it. The other thing I'll say, it's funny because I always try to look at the balance of things. It's just who I am, right? If it's a bad day, that means tomorrow is going to be a good one. It has to happen. That's the way it is, right? But when I look at this, the insurance companies weren't giving out money. Excuse me, I apologize. But have they given out that money and paid that out? I wonder if that wouldn't have hurt the economy more in the long run because they weren't able to get the interest to weather their own storms. And I know that sounds funny and you don't want to, I don't like to look at it either. But I used to work for the insurance companies. I used to do, I was an agent for years, and I was always looking out for the best on my client, but then trying to understand why an underwriter would do what they would do. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, the risk factor. And I don't necessarily agree with how it all transpired, but I think ultimately, I do believe everything happens for a reason, and I believe it all works out the way it's supposed to. And I think these insurance companies played it smart because they knew, what if we end up doing this and then don't recover in a year or 2 years, and then where are we at? So
yeah, there's something to that, and it's not that they weren't paying anything. But on smaller cases, I had guys, because they have to justify their jobs too, right? I had adjusters that were making offers within 2 days of getting demand packages because they didn't have any new files. They're like, I got to do something. So, but certainly the bigger stuff just held on longer. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I was just following that up. That's all. So this can be personally or professionally, and you know what? Actually, let me say this. As far as, why don't you give us one of each? Because you seem like a really nice guy, and I would actually be interested in both. So what is your proudest moment personally? Because I know you do the real estate investing as more of a, that's obviously not your focus point of business. Yeah. And then you have the firm. So what would be a proudest moment?
So my proudest moments are personally are running moments. I've finished a 100-mile foot race.
Wow.
And a 70.5-mile trail race in Western Pennsylvania, both of which were absolutely exhausting.
May I ask how many days that is, or is that one? That's
no, it's 1 day. So the 100-mile race was 23 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh, you're on a bike. You're on a bike.
No, running.
Oh, okay, running.
Okay. At Umstead Park in North Carolina.
Oh no, sorry, I was thinking you said 23 hours. Oh wow. Oh my God, you ran for a day? That you had to literally, did you ever think to yourself, I feel like I'm Forrest Gump at this moment?
Well, there's a,
I only mean because of the running seat.
There's a guy in my area that just did the Forrest Gump.
Really? Wow.
Just finished a race across America. But no, what I thought ironically, and I have a distinct memory in the 70-mile race of doing that, of sitting in a chair at an aid station 45 miles into the race. My wife was 8 months pregnant, and I dragged the whole family 4 hours west of Pennsylvania, and wanting to quit, but I didn't drag everybody 4 hours west so that I could run 45 miles of, my son's in the winter here, run 45 miles of a 70-mile mountain race. So
that's awesome.
So that those two are my proudest personal accomplishments, and I've taken with baby number 3, who's now 4 years old. I've taken a couple of years off, but my goal next year, which would be my 40th year, a year and a half, is to do another 100-mile race.
Nice. Are you gonna repeat the same race? And is that same race always the same path or different options?
No, I'm going to attempt Massanutten Mountain 100, which is on Massanutten Mountain. It's rocky, is one of the harder ones on the East Coast. The time limit is 35 hours. And so I expect it'll take me somewhere between 32 and 34.
Wow. That's just climbing the whole time, isn't it? Do you have?
Well, it's climbing. Climbing sometimes is the easy part, right? Because you can train on a stair climber. It's coming back down that's hard.
Really?
When you blow up your quads, The coming back down is pretty hard.
Because I mean, I that would only make sense because ultimately they say resistance is the quicker and better way to build muscles, right? And that's exactly what coming down is resisting gravity to just take you down the hill. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And then and professionally, like we had a really good year. So
this past year, 2021 or 20.
Yeah. Well, this year has been so far a really good year. So I tried a case in April and got a $4.25 million verdict against a drunk driver who hit my client head on about 3.5 years ago and just caused catastrophic injuries. And so we got her $3.25 million of compensatory damages and $1 million of punitive damages, which we believe to be a tie for the record in punitive damages in a drunk driving case in Virginia. So really proud of that. I mean, it's in Fairfax County, which is a traditionally a conservative part of the state.
Doesn't award a lot of big winnings like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, but we'll do it in the right case when you have a recalcitrant defendant, which is exactly what we had in this case. So.
And when you prove your point. You know, I mean, quite frankly, I love talking to attorneys because particularly litigators, most of them get what I mean. But when I say this, but they're the greatest salesmen on earth. You know,
that's right. We're salesmen. You know,
pure. You are the purest form of salesman. I tell people the only difference is you have someone's money or life in your hands. That's the only difference, is that what you're selling essentially is you cannot put a value on it. Yes, you have the monetary side, but you really can't put it because it's always somebody's life that's going to be impacted on one side or the other.
Exactly.
Or both sides are going to be impacted. One to the better, one obviously to the worse.
Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah. No, I will love to see where you folks are in a couple of years. So who's in this journey that you've had? Who's your mentors? What's the best piece of advice, I should say, that a mentor has given you?
Geez. Best piece of advice from a mentor.
You can say your dad too. That's
well, so I'm thinking him, but I didn't really follow the advice that he gave me.
Of course,
the best advice, looking back for somebody that wants to be a lawyer, is to go to the cheapest law school you can find. Wants to do what I do, right? So if you go to a cheap law school, lower level law school, you're not going to get a Wall Street job, probably. But if you want to be a trial lawyer, the best thing that you can do is graduate with little to no debt. And so that is really, really important. Understanding, that $100,000 loan is, I don't know, $25,000 a year in repaying it, and doesn't go away, right? Doesn't go away when you hit 100. So
no, far from it.
So keeping financially savvy at the beginning and making sure that you're, spending less than you're making and putting money away so that you can do things like invest, and so that you have the financial stability to build a cool business, is really important advice.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that, because I think it makes more sense to get, you can call it whatever you want, but education nowadays is pretty standard. And what I mean by that is, particularly if you go to law school, there's a certain amount that has to be taught, right? And there's a certain amount that has to be covered in order for you to go past that state's bar, or past your state's bar if you're learning out of state, which I don't understand why some people do that.
So I mean, it's a requirement, right? Like you have to go to law school, except in California, and except in some states where you can study for whatever. Like law school, 99.9% of the time is a requirement. The bar is a requirement, but after 3 years of practice, nobody cares where you went to school.
Right? No, they only care about what have you done in the law, and in getting your foot in the door. Quite frankly, I think sometimes might be easier if you're the guy that doesn't have all the accolades, because they may look at you. I know that I did when I hired salespeople. If they went to the greater schools and all that stuff, I was always like, well, you're not going to have a problem getting a job. And that's just who I was. Like, I don't need to worry about hiring you. You're going to have a handful of offers and probably not even going to take mine anyway. right?
Well,
So I would look for the guy that, or the gal that had little to no experience, but would, work their way through it. They really earned everything that they had.
and coming out not saddled by debt, right?
Yes.
Gives you options.
Yes.
Right. You don't
Oh,
have
totally,
to
dude. If you can be debt free,
Yeah.
please. That's the better way. I think a lot of people would learn from that statement, not just attorneys. Quite frankly, like you could take that on to the other big profession, like doctors who have to go through it. Why go to the most expensive school and pay the most expensive money for you to get the same job that ultimately, most likely, somebody who paid half or a fourth of that is going to get as well? So,
No, exactly.
and it's all about how you perform in the real world anyway. Like you said, after 4 years in it, 3 years in it, who cares where you went? It's what you did last week.
Yeah, it's what you are, what Google says you are after 4 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. So run through a daily, just a daily ritual that is most, most important, and kind of, give us your typical day in that.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in winning, win the morning, win the day.
Right.
And so my things that I've really started this year, first thing I do is drink a big glass of water, right? Because you dehydrate overnight. So 16, 20 ounces of water. And I like to exercise, either go to a CrossFit gym or I go for a run. And then if I can find 10 minutes to sit quietly and meditate, I like to do that. And then I'm on with the day, right? Then I can get the kids ready for school, get a shower, come into work. When I'm at my best, I can do things like not open email until noon. Like if I have a day where I can come in and it's hard to do because you have to plan it in advance, and you really have to be in the rhythm of doing this every single day, or else it's easy to fall off this wagon. But if you can do the substantive work for the first 2 or 3 hours of the day and then get to email, like that's a perfect day.
Yep.
Because every email that you send out at 8:30 in the morning is coming back to you by 10, right?
You're getting a reply.
Duplicating work. So yeah, just if I can have a day where I can do those couple of things, drink water to begin with, work out, meditate, and stay off of email, that's a good day.
I like the water that you mentioned, that because I read this, probably I used to be much heavier, like about 65, 70 pounds heavier, and started changing my daily ritual. One of the big things I changed, by the way, that really helped was just cutting out Cokes. Stop drinking them and started drinking water. And I started drinking water. And my wife read this thing like right after that. And she's like, I just read an article that says if you take 20 quick sips of water right when you wake up, she's like literally immediately upon waking up, you still want to continue to hydrate, throughout the first 15 minutes. But she's like, if you take these 20 quick sips, she's like, before you even start drinking your regular, she's like, like quick sips. Supposedly it's kind of like warming up an engine, if you will, in a car. And it's those 20 quick sips that it's just enough, apparently, from the study, right, to give your body enough, not overwhelm it, so that it starts. And then after 5 minutes, you're okay to start drinking your regular water, doing all your regular things, still very quickly, but it's that immediate, wake up, drink some water, get the hydration going, get the engine going. Yeah. Since getting that, it's been one of the vital things for my morning. I know, and help. I believe it or not, I also believe that just helps me lose weight. I think it said it even somewhere in the article. It helps promote good weight loss because the engine is started right away. So it immediately, did I just hit the mic again?
No, you're good. It kickstarts your metabolism.
Right. It kickstarts the metabolism,
lowers your cortisol levels, and makes you feel full.
Yep. Exactly. It was very cool. So what do most people here's the key word, not know about you that might be something strange, quirky, or maybe a hobby? And I will say this, by the way, I have a belief that normal is strange. So don't be afraid to tell us anything, because I promise you there's nothing we've not heard.
What strange thing do most people not know about? Let's see.
It could be the running. But I imagine that most of the folks that work with you probably know.
Ultra runners, we're kind of like CrossFitters. We talk about it a lot. So
yeah, it's kind of
a lot of people know about the running.
Yeah.
What do most people not know? I don't know.
We can pass, man. If there's, you know, a lot of people, I try to tell this, like, I don't know that I have one anymore because I became such an open book over the last 15 years that, like, literally even the worst stories became no different to me. And I tell people, like, once you tell a bad story about yourself a few times, it becomes a lot easier too. So then you just, you know, like, if you really are an open book, you're an open book.
Yeah. I mean, and so maybe that's it. Maybe I just talk about it a lot. Right. So, one of the things that I'm really proud of is I'm able to get out of the office at 4:30 most days, and when we're in season, go coach my two older boys' sports. So I've coached soccer, I've coached baseball, and I was doing two teams at a time. So
Nice.
for baseball last fall, Monday, Wednesday with Noel and my 7-year-old, and Tuesday, Thursday with Kellen, my 9-year-old, and then we go do 2 games on Saturday. And the greatest part about that was since the league knew I was coaching 2 teams, they scheduled me, so I never had a conflict.
Nice.
But I tell people that's why I did it. Right now, I don't have to worry about being in 2 places at once because the teams are all spread out.
As long as you have no conflicts, why not take on, like, it's let's face it, it's a what I call a happy responsibility.
Yeah,
right?
I know, and I like being there. I like being outside.
Oh, yeah.
I like throwing or kicking a soccer ball around. And, yeah.
They keep me young, man. I you know, not just having mine here, but hearing their outlooks. I always love to hear the way they hear it again. And what I mean by again is taking myself back to that, looking at the world from 8 years old and being like, oh yeah, like even at 8, you know so much, but you remember as an adult how much you were still in awe of everything that you experienced, right? And it's just so big and wonderful. So that's awesome. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Probably running 100 miles.
Okay, we'll leave it. Fair enough. And I assume, since you work for your father and you work for your father's firm, did you grow up there in Fairfax? Is that where you're from?
Yep.
So what was it like? What was it like growing up there? Let's take you back to, you said you're 40. So let's take you back to 1983, from 83 to, let's say, 93. So when you were a kid, what was it like growing up?
Well, it's different, right? I mean, when we weren't quite like the edge of civilization, but we're not now. Right now,
right. It's different.
It's much larger. And so my kids were in the same school district that I went to. My kids will go to that high school. At least if we stay there, they will. It was normal. I mean, I played soccer. I played in a ska band. I played trombone in a ska band in high school.
Nice. You like Fishbone?
What's that?
You like Fishbone?
Yeah.
Okay. Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Okay, you got to remember. I hit it again. I can't stand that mic. I'm 50, so I grew up with all those in the 90s. I was a young adult listening to a lot of Fishbone, a lot of Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. They were two of my big. I've seen Fishbone several times. It's funny you say, because I just had to stop, man. So many people still don't even know the word ska. It's amazing to me. It's like lacrosse. It's like these two things somehow have existed for eons, and there's a lot of people involved on. But you talk about them, a lot of people look at lacrosse, ska. So I love the fact that you were a part of it. So, and I really do love. I try to tell people ska is something that you cannot explain. You just have to hear it. It's the best way.
And it's funny. We made a CD at a small local recording studio, and I've still got a couple of copies in my house. And once a year, the CD comes out and goes in the CD player. Not every my wife doesn't love it.
Put it up on Spotify, man. You own it. Put it up on Spotify and see what happens.
I gotta look into that.
I don't know if you know this. Oops. But there are a ton of services in Spotify. I know. Sorry, the cuckoo's almost done. There we go. I know Spotify is free to put it up, and there's a lot of services that will essentially put you up on there. They'll do, they'll take it. You give them some artwork. You do it yourself, you know what I mean? But then they'll essentially put you onto Spotify, put you onto Apple, and then a few other the big ones, but Google as well, and Amazon. Okay. Those are really the 4 that you want. And
I'm gonna have to look
see what happens, man. You never know. Wouldn't that be nostalgically cool if, like, 10 years from now, you're like, not only do I put it in a CD, but I go and see that I got 25 more followers this year.
Yeah, so. just show my kids that I'm on Spotify.
Yeah, dude, if nothing else, let me say, your kids will absolutely love seeing you on an app that they know you use all the time. right? Or
Mhm.
one that they're going to be using if they're not already. So that's cool.
Cool.
I think you already answered this because you really said it from the very, very beginning. You wanted to be an attorney. So I'm not going to bother repeating that question. These are the final ones. And these are really just kind of your favorites, you know, your loves and hates, if you will, and really your loves, because we have no negativities on the show. So colleagues next to your father, because I know you have the go-to of your father, and he's an awesome man, but next to your father, who do you most respect in the industry?
So a couple of guys were in our mastermind group. And then now that I've said that, I'm like, I better name everybody who's
just name the group.
Yeah. Len Spada, who's up in Boston, John Griffith in Nashville, and then my buddy Adam Rawson and Manny Sarah down in Miami, Florida.
Nice.
So two PI guys and two criminal law guys.
And y'all were all obviously I caught this, but you were in a mastermind group. Was this from law school or out of law school?
No, we're out of law school, so a bunch of practicing lawyers now.
Gotcha. No, what I meant was when you did the mastermind, was that was past law school, right? That was something.
Yep.
Did y'all meet online then? I'm assuming with all the different.
No, it's my dad's firm, the Great Legal Marketing.
Oh, okay.
So the guys are members there.
Oh, okay, cool, very cool. What's if you have one, what is your favorite podcast?
I have a couple. So, so you mentioned, but I do a little bit of real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting in that. We have my wife and I own a short-term rental property at the beach. We're looking to acquire a couple others later this year. So I'm a Bigger Pockets real estate podcast fan. I'm in a group called GoBundance, the Tribe of Millionaires podcast. It's a really good podcast. They do a lot of member spotlights. And I haven't listened in a while, but Tim Ferriss was really one of the ones that got me hooked on podcasts to begin with.
Cool. Do you have I know a lot of PI guys love PELMA, but do you have a favorite conference each year?
I don't. I think I dislike most lawyer groups because I would rather be around business people than lawyers. So although I went to National Trial Lawyers annual conference in January, and it was much more business centric. At least they had a business track, right? It wasn't right. How do we take a better deposition? It's how do we do better marketing? How do we
create a better business? Period.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's funny. You've said it so many times. I just want to take a real quick break because I only have one question left. But one of the things that we try to preach to attorneys, and we try to preach and teach, I should say, is that you really have to, when you're looking at marketing a law firm, you've got to take off the attorney's hat, truly. And people don't take this seriously, but I'm like, you really have to take that off, because the two don't, even though attorneys are salespeople, they're not marketers, right? Mm-hmm. And marketing a business is more on the business side. And if you're going to run a business, you really have to put on a business owner hat versus an attorney hat, even though you might be the same guy that is running the business and the main attorney, right? But you really have to wear that hat differently. We find it, I'll say this. It's funny because the way that your dad approach it are kind of similar to what, there's multiple ways you can skin a cat, as they say, right? But one of the things that we find is if you have a firm where there's no one person, don't try to have one person do all the different features of that business hat, because it's usually going to be too much for them to be an attorney and be the full-time business runner of the company, right? So if you can get a COO, that's great. But if you can't, then disperse it amongst the partners. And that sounds like the way that you and your dad have done it, and the balance there. I always love that too. My sons are a great example. The first twin sons, all the weaknesses of one are the strengths of the other, and vice versa. And when you have that kind of balance, it really does help you forge ahead, because what that really brings, and I point this out, is someone's always putting you in check. And if you're okay with their partner putting you in check, which you have to be, then you're always like, let me give some extra thought to that. And almost always, I don't necessarily make a different decision, but I make an altered decision with a little bit more thought.
Or at least you've thought it through a little bit more.
Right. It made sure that decision was, I've played out all the different paths, if you will, in my head of what I feel like the consequences would be of that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, what is your favorite tool and or software? They may be one of the same.
Yeah. So we started using CasePeer about 2 years ago, and I've been really, really
CasePeer,
happy.
right?
Really, really
CasePeer?
happy with. Sorry.
CasePeer.
CasePeer. Yeah.
Got it.
It's a case management software. I've been really happy. I'm a dashboard guy. Like I like to see how many cases do we have in each stage. And I've been really happy with the software since we started using it. It's auto accident and injury specific. It's not good for a family law firm. It's not good for criminal defense.
No.
It's been really good for us.
No, to me, I think, quite frankly, to me, the only way that they could really do that, where you can make a good piece of software that would work for any lawyer in the sense of following the cases, is if you have the ability to go in and customize, but then that takes so much time because you got to customize your pipeline, right, to fit your mold. And it makes it a lot easier if you have a piece of software like this, where you can just go in. And I imagine they probably have most of it done where there's very little need to customize it other than put your logos and things like that in it.
Yeah. And they told us as we were in the purchasing process, like it's limited to no customization that you can do of this thing. Obviously you tell it what your state statute of limitations are.
Right. But
there's that. But and then you can organize your own, they call it a case flow. So, if I open a file, what happens 5, 15, 30 days after I open it,
right,
what gets auto assigned. But you can't go in and tinker with their fields or anything like that. But it, like I said, it works for us.
That makes it the KISS method, right? Keep it stupid simple. I've always believed in that my personal life as well as business life. The simpler you can keep it and less having to think about it, and that's the stupid part, right? The quicker you're going to get it done, and usually on how do you say, done well and done correctly most of the time. I know that sounds funny because you're like doing it quickly. Are you going to get it done right? Yeah. If you keep it stupid simple, then it gets done quickly and it gets done correctly. So.
Right.
Well, listen, I really appreciate it, Brian Glass of Fairfax, Virginia. It's been a pleasure having you on. Just know that obviously during the show, we will flash up your attorney's name, website. We're going to have all that stuff. On a side note, just know that also when this comes out, I will be reaching out to you individually and sending the links. We are well ahead on recording right now of releasing, but I assure you it will happen. And once it happens, I'll send you the links so you can share those links and however you want. Let me just mute this for a moment. I've tried my best to keep my throat clear, but I told you, man, it's really difficult here. Thank you so much again for being on. And just a little side note as an outro, and then I'll talk to you for just a quick second. Again, Gladiator Law Marketing is the one that sponsors the show. And if you would like to learn more about that, please go to our website. If you would like to be a guest on the show and just talk about your daily rituals and the things that make your firm a little bit different and or successful, please reach out to us as well. And you can just simply reach out to me directly to the email address, michael@gladiatorlawmarketing.com. Michael is spelled standard, MICH, Alpha Echo Lima, at Gladiator Law Marketing. All those words are spelled standard as well.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.